the easiest way to get better at YouTube is to make bad videos faster. One piece of advice I would give to someone who's like just getting started, those are the 3 things that I feel like every creator is going to be doing for the longevity of their creative career. And they even can like help you even if you decide to like, jump to other platforms outside of YouTube.
Hey gang, welcome back to Channel Chats. Today we have YouTuber Brandon Washington, who's grown over 130,000 subscribers, talking about equipment and tips that we need to make great videos, and in particular, great videos for social media. So in this chat today, we're going to be talking about his experiences and his expertise so that we can learn how to become better video creators for social media and to grow our YouTube channels faster. So Brandon, thanks for being here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I appreciate the time. We're going to jump into your channel and your experiences in particular in just a second, but straight away I want to jump in and get instant value for the viewers. So I ask every guest this: smaller channels, beginner YouTubers and smaller YouTubers, what is a common mistake that you're seeing them making a lot these days that might be holding back their growth?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are possibly overthinking like what their channel is going to be. I know for me, my channel has sort of like evolved over time. And if I was still making the types of videos that I first started off making, I don't know if I'd be here today. And so the one piece of advice I would give to someone who's like just getting started is don't necessarily overthink the content, especially at the beginning. In fact, it might be actually beneficial to try to make lots of different types of content at the beginning, because, I have found that just because you enjoy something doesn't mean that you'll necessarily enjoy making videos about that thing. Mm-hmm. So like for me, like I love camping, but I've tried to make camping videos before, but I feel like it just ruins the camping experience. So like, even though I love camping and I could make videos about camping, I didn't really enjoy the process of creating the videos about camping. However, I love filmmaking as well, and I do love making reviews and testing cameras and creating, content around that. And so at the very beginning, I think it's really important to just like not only find what you enjoy, but then also test out making different forms of content around it to see if you enjoy the content creation process. Because, YouTube is a long-term game. And as I mentioned, your channel is going to evolve as you go. And so when you're at the very beginning, it's okay to not know exactly what you want that content to be. But I think it's important to really try different things, try different formats, whether that's reviews or man on the street type of interviews or podcasts. Just try different styles at the very beginning and see not only which one do you enjoy, but which one, more importantly, do you actually enjoy creating. And I think if you can figure out that little puzzle piece, you'll be set up for success, especially in the long term.
So are you saying that smaller creators potentially aren't going through that experimentation? They're starting with a really strict plan of what they're going to do, and that's potentially leading them into creating content and running a channel that they're not passionate about doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially when you start finding success, I think that could be actually one of the most like detrimental things. It's like you create a piece of content and it works really well, and then you're like, oh, I guess I have to keep doing this, but you didn't explore enough to find if maybe there was something that actually worked better, or if you found something that you enjoyed making more. Because I've seen a lot of creators burn out after, 5 to 10 videos because they don't actually enjoy the process, whether that's they really hate editing, whereas if they were to go with more of a podcast style, there's probably a lot less editing that has to be done. So for new starting out YouTubers, I would say just test lots of different formats, especially at the beginning, because, you kind of have the ability to move and be a little bit more nimble that some creators who are, have a bigger channel and they have more to lose, it's harder for them to like try new things. But when you're at the very beginning, take advantage of that opportunity to try as many different things as possible, because that's sort of your superpower at that level.
Sure. Better to have experimented, found a type of video that you enjoy making, and for that video to blow up, and you then make more of that type of video than a video that you don't enjoy making to blow up and you feel like you have to keep making a type of video that you don't enjoy. So you've been doing YouTube for 7 years now. You're at 137,000 subscribers, I think it was. Let's say you're starting tomorrow, brand new channel, completely from scratch. Doesn't even necessarily have to be in the same niche. What are you doing tomorrow with your brand new channel to grow your new channel as fast as possible and be as successful as you can with your new channel?
I mean, the first thing I would do is I would definitely find like a niche. It's much easier to grow a channel if you know exactly who you're talking about or who you're talking to. Because I tend to find that the easiest way to grow on YouTube is to find a common pain point that people are dealing with, and then to create content around trying to help people solve that pain point. So, whether if it's cooking, if that became the niche I chose to choose, I would go and try to find what are some common pain points. People struggle learning how to smoke meat, or if they don't know how to cook a certain type of pastry. And then I would make content trying to help solve that issue. And I think that that's kind of the way that most people consume content is they have a need and then they go looking for content to help them solve that need. And sometimes that need is, I want to be entertained. And so it doesn't always have to be educational. But when people go seeking for content, they're either looking for, information, so that's the need, or they're looking for escapism, which is entertainment, which again is also still a need. And so I would just try to find a niche and then think about what is the need that people have within that niche and then figure out how I want to solve that. So I think that's the very first step I would take.
I'm going to pause you there. I want the rest of the steps, but I'm just going to dig a little bit deeper into that. So finding the needs of your target viewer, are you just trying to put yourself in the mindset of the viewer, or are you taking like tangible actions to find out what those needs are?
Oh, I have tangible action steps that I actually go through. So like, when I first started out making content about filmmaking and video production on YouTube, I didn't have a really big channel. So a lot of people always say, go to your comment section to figure out what people are looking for. But if you don't have a big channel, you don't really have much of a comment section. So I started going to bigger YouTubers who were in my same space, and I started going through their comment section and seeing like what were their viewers not getting from the video that they watched. And then I would try to make videos that solved those specific problems. So that's the first way that I do it. The other one that I actually learned just recently that's really big is Google is a fantastic resource when it comes to like answering questions. So like, for example, I was working with a church and they were trying to come up with some content ideas. And so we started like brainstorming different stuff they could do. And literally we just typed in Google, we typed in, should Christians? And then Google had like all these like suggestions. So it was like, should Christians smoke weed, or should Christians drink alcohol, or should Christians go to church? And so all these were questions that people were already searching for. And so what's nice within Google is if you go through if you scroll down to the bottom of it, it'll just keep populating the most searched terms. And so like between going in other people's comment sections and going on Google and letting Google kind of auto-complete a question, it really helps me know like what are the pain points that people are looking for within any individual niche. And so then okay, these are the types of videos that not only I should be answering because it solves that problem, but it also like people are actively looking for these things. So those are two really, and if, and the way Google works with YouTube is if you are solving these questions, Google will also promote your YouTube video on your behalf because now you're answering the question that people are looking for, and Google can like direct them to your content.
Yeah, 100%. I can vouch for that. Some of my most popular videos in the past got picked up by the YouTube search engine because people were asking those questions. But it also got a ton of traffic from Google because Google had put my YouTube video at the very top of the Google homepage when people had searched for that question too. So yeah, it was a double hitter. Completely agree of the benefits for that. And you said that was step one. So what's the other steps of growing a channel?
I think the next steps that I would take would really be focusing like much, much harder on my titles and thumbnails. I know that when I was growing my YouTube channel, people would tell me all the time, titles and thumbnails. And full transparency, I would roll my eyes at them and I would be like, oh my gosh, this is such a waste of time. But I have learned that like your titles and your thumbnails really do matter. because it gets to a place to where if people are looking at your title and they're looking at your thumbnail and they're not enticed to want to click on your video, it doesn't matter how good the video is. And personally, as like a videographer, like my whole journey, my whole goal was all about making the best videos I could possibly make. And so I only cared about the video, but I have learned and it's a constant learning, and that's probably the next big step. But like, it's a constant learning of like constantly trying to upgrade your titles and your thumbnails and creating something that entices someone to click. And if you can learn how to do that, I believe that, earning the click is obviously step one. From there, you have to craft a great video, but if you never earn the click, then it won't matter. And especially when you're first starting out, I think that earning the click is honestly even more important than just crafting a really, really great video.
Yeah.
Because
I've heard that from a lot of people.
So many creators, they make amazing content, but no one ever clicks on it because they make their thumbnail at the last minute, or they just pull a screen grab, or, I've heard that, and I'm not perfect at this either, but I've heard, however long it takes you to spend on your video, you should probably spend about as much time really focusing on your thumbnail and titles as well. Because if it's literally 50% of the work, 50% is getting the click, and then the other 50% is retaining them to watch your video, then you should be spending about half as much time really focusing on that thumbnail. Now, I'm not perfect at that by any means, but it is something that I've actively been working on more and more, and trying to find new ways to really entice people to want to click on those thumbnails.
Yeah, I think that's going to come as a surprise to a lot of people watching this, that people actually consider spending that much time on their titles and thumbnails. But it makes complete sense. You have to get people to click your video before, for them to watch it. Like, your video can be amazing, but if they don't click it, they're not watching. I'm just looking at your channel now, like some of your older titles and thumbnails, camelback drone vlog from 7 years ago, meeting other YouTubers, and the images just seem to be kind of like screen grabs from the actual video.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I can see that you are practicing what you preach. Like, if we jump to your videos now, how to shoot 30 Instagram reels in 24 hours, the best budget cinema lenses in 2023, and nice, seemingly high produced thumbnail images, like these are much more enticing and clickable titles and thumbnails than you were using back then. So completely
something actually really interesting about that budget one. So that budget one actually, like, although it seems like it's just a bunch of lenses, I actually went in and photoshopped all the logos off of all of those lenses, specifically because I didn't want someone to be able to look at the thumbnail and be able to guess exactly which lenses they are. So I wanted to like entice you to have to click, because if you're like, I think I know what that lens is, but it doesn't have the markings I'm used to, that kind of like adds to that little bit of like mystique. And I even lit it in a way where they're very silhouetted, so like you can't truly tell. And even the photograph was taken knowing that the text would be up there, so I left intentional empty space above.
Wow.
So little things like that I started thinking about in my thumbnails a lot, in order to try to help.
So clever
to want to actually
those added touches to create more curiosity and mystery. That's awesome. That's so cool to hear and to see it in practice. Sweet. And okay then, so finding out what your audience needs, spending more time on titles and thumbnails. These are your two steps of getting your second channel to 130,000 plus subscribers. Anything else in that list of steps?
The other one would just be to come up with like a system for consistency. I will say that, it's so weird for me to be giving this advice, honestly, because like I watched all the videos when I first started out. Like, I was looking to learn how to grow my channel, and the tips that I'm giving now are the tips I was given at the beginning, and I rolled my eyes on all of them. I was just like, this is what everybody says, it doesn't matter, like there's no way this is really how you do it. But the truth is that like this is really it. But I find that for consistency, it's not about just like posting consistent. So the trick or the little nugget that I would like to give that's a little maybe a little bit different than consistency is, posting consistently. It can be done easily. If you shoot everything in bulk and then you just schedule it out, it can be very easy to be consistent in that way. But I find that like consistency rewards like other traits within your videos as well. So like if you're consistently working on videos, you're going to consistently also be working on thumbnails. So your thumbnail game will consistently get better over time. Your hooks, just like something as simple as your hooks within your videos. If you're consistently making videos, you're also going to just keep getting better at your hooks. And when you are consistent, it's much easier to like read the data and then apply that information and then take it to your next video. But when you make one video and then 2 months go by and then you make another video and then 3 months go by and then you make the next video, it's really hard to like take those learnings from video to video, because even just the process of like remembering how you want your lighting set up and your camera angles and everything else, like it's hard to remember that when you allow 2 months go between you creating content. So I always find that like if you are consistently creating, you're consistently going through the process, you'll learn a lot faster from video to video. Like I've heard the quickest way to success is just to fail faster. And so I find that on YouTube, the easiest way to get better at YouTube is to make bad videos faster. And so just be more consistent and just creating the content. And with each video, if you can just really try to think about like, oh, I'm going to fix one thing. Like I'm going to make my hook just a little bit snappier, or I'm going to edit my hook a little bit better. And then like for a long time, that was my thing. And now I'm like, okay, let me take my hook from being 30 seconds to being 15 seconds. Like how can I hook somebody in 15 seconds and then get them into the content even faster? Like each video I try that on, I'm going to keep getting better and better. But if I allow myself 2 to 3 months in between, it's kind of like going to the gym once every 2 to 3 months. You're just not going to see improvement. You have to do it more consistently to actually start to see some noticeable changes.
Yeah. And I guess the flip side of that, and something I've been guilty of myself, and I've seen other YouTubers making this mistake, is they focus on consistency, but too much, as in they release too many videos consistently in a short amount of time, which doesn't leave them any time to actually reflect on how the previous video did and take notes and realize what they need to improve on. So I think there's definitely a limit there of like how much quantity you should be getting out. But I love the idea of consistently making videos and then reflecting and improving your skill over time from basically flexing that muscle that you've been doing in video production. Awesome. Are those the 3 steps to growing a channel?
Yeah, I would say, starting out, those would be the main 3. That'll get you to a point where you can start making videos that actually serve a purpose, that is, has a little bit more value to the viewer. And then once you are kind of like in the flow, you can start to like acknowledge some of the feedback that you're getting from your viewers or through your analytics. And then you can start picking new areas to kind of focus on as you go. But those 3 things, I personally believe that like you're going to constantly be doing throughout the entire journey of being a creator, solving problems for the viewers, focusing on titles and thumbnails, and working on consistency. I don't care how long you've been doing YouTube, whether you've been doing it for a few days or you've been doing it for 10 plus years. Those are the 3 things that I feel like every creator is going to be doing for the longevity of their creative career. And they even can like help you even if you decide to like, jump to other platforms outside of YouTube.
Yeah, the 3 core skills that if you focus on at the start, you're always going to be using them. So best to start developing those skills as early as possible. Makes sense.
Absolutely.
We'll be back with more tips from successful YouTubers on how to get more views on YouTube after this quick break. But quickly, check out this Forbes article stating that YouTube ad revenue is down by up to 90% this year. I mean, if we jump over to my analytics, you can see 12 months ago, I was making £652 per month. And 12 months later, I'm down to earning less than 50% of that at just £264 per month. And I'm seeing this with the clients that I work with too. This is a big problem. YouTubers are just not earning the amounts they were from ad revenue. And as I speak to more YouTubers on this podcast, they time and time again mention memberships as a reliable, recurring way for YouTubers to earn an income outside of relying on YouTube ad revenue. Here is Jevon Dovy's membership area, for example. He was a guest on this podcast a few months ago, and we can see down here, he's charging $29 a month for access to his membership. So if he just gets 100 of his YouTube viewers to sign up for this, he's now making an additional $29 a month from his YouTube viewers outside of relying on YouTube ad revenue. Yoga with Adrienne is doing the same thing here with her membership site, Find What Feels Good. They've both built their membership sites using today's sponsor, Uscreen, who last year paid out $150 million to creators through membership subscriptions. Crazy. Uscreen gives you premium video hosting, like all of the videos Jevon has uploaded to his membership area, what we can see on screen here. You can even turn that membership area into a branded app, just like Yoga with Adrienne has done here, so that her members can access her video content using whatever device they're currently on. If we jump over to Brandon's membership area, who was also on this podcast, we can see that in his membership area, he is giving his members access to live streams with him every so often. And also there is a private community hosted within his membership site. Community and live streams being two other things that you can do on your membership area that you build using Uscreen. Uscreen knows that the idea of creating your own membership space can be intimidating for YouTubers, and that's why they provide these three things. They pair you with a dedicated success manager who talks you through an exact step-by-step plan of how much revenue you can expect to earn from your membership area and the exact effort required to get your membership space up and running. They've created a resource hub called Membership Plus to help you learn and grow your membership, packed full of video lessons, live workshops with expert creators, and the opportunity to just connect with other creators building a membership like you are. You can join up to that by clicking the link in the description to this video. And finally, if you have a membership already on another platform, then they'll migrate all of your content and your members from that platform over to Uscreen for you. Uscreen stands out to me because memberships is all they do. They're specifically laser focused in making it easy for creators to easily launch memberships. So if you're a YouTuber or video creator interested in creating your own membership, go check them out. The link to them is in the description to this video, and tell them that Greg sent you. Well, I mean, we've talked about this hypothetical journey through YouTube with a new channel. We're looking to seed and grow with it as fast as possible. Let's take a look at your channel, and maybe you can talk us through what your channel's about. If you want to talk about your journey and how you got here and plans for the future. I think our viewers would be really interested in hearing about it.
Yeah, no, I've been on YouTube for a while. And when I originally got on YouTube, it was really just a place for me to have like a creative expression. That was it. Like most of my videos were like vlogs of like trips I was on, or realistically, a lot of them are also at the very beginning, like just drone clips. So when I got my first drone and I was like learning how to fly it, and I needed a place to be able to like upload it. Like, so this was kind of like my starting ground. However, you know, as I progressed with YouTube, I realized like, okay, people say they make money with YouTube and they say they're able to actually, you know, monetize, but I didn't know realistically like how that would actually work. And so I just decided, you know, I'm going to just keep posting videos just for fun. And then, there was one video in particular that sort of like showed me that like, oh, wait a minute, this is like, you can actually reach like an actual decent amount of people. And it was, I reviewed the DJI Mavic. It was the first one. Yep. That.
Oh, here we go.
Right there.
We were right on it.
And so I reviewed this this drone, and it was my first time ever doing a review. So like, if you notice, as I mentioned before, you know, when I first started out, I tried vlogs and just posting little clips here, and I was like kind of stuck in this format, but I didn't really enjoy vlogging at all. I actually found it to be very difficult for me. And so I decided, oh, let me try reviews. And I really enjoyed making that review. Not only did I enjoy making it, but it was actually like the first time I had a video actually start to take off and do more than a couple hundred views. And so that taught me, I was like, wait a minute, I really enjoy this format of reviewing. And I also really like it, the audience seems to really enjoy it as well. And it was the first time I tried speaking to my peers, as I even titled the video, like DJI Mavic Pro review for filmmakers. Like this was my review, my first time trying it, and I enjoyed it. People also tended to like it as well. So today, I mean, the channel still primarily focuses on video creators as a whole. When I first started out, I always believed like you have to have a niche, you have to have a niche, you have to have a niche. And so I still believe in having a niche. But today, the internet is way more broad than it was 6-7 years ago. And so I've tried to slowly expand my niche out even further, focusing on not only helping filmmakers, but helping anyone who's really interested in video production. And today, it's just there's so many people who are creating content, but not just like, with the aspiration of being a filmmaker or even just doing video production for other clients. But some people are just wanting to create amazing content for themselves on social media. And so, now the main focus is just helping video creators, because one thing I learned and sort of like a realization I had with my niche of filmmakers is that all filmmakers are video creators, but not all video creators are filmmakers. And so I could still create very similar content, but I could allow myself to sort of branch out a little bit further, which will allow me to, one, bring in, new eyeballs and new audiences, but also be able to introduce those new audiences maybe to new concepts that they haven't, seen before.
That makes complete sense. Going from speaking to just filmmakers to speaking to video makers, intentionally widening your potential audience and reaching a wider amount of people. There's actually parallels there to a process I've gone through myself. I've been targeting strictly YouTubers on my channel for the last 3-4 years. And in the last year or two, really, more specifically, sort of entrepreneurial, educational YouTubers. And I realized, funnily enough, through one of the previous podcast guests, I was encountering the same problem as you, of speaking to a much smaller audience than I possibly could, and kind of limiting my potential. So my step is, it's not happening on my channel yet, but in the next few weeks, is to start speaking to people making video, like video for social media. So rather than just YouTube, it's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, because that's why limit your potential views when you can share the same tips and the same expertise, but to a much bigger audience.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing I learned. And, when I had that kind of aha moment, was like, I was like, well, filmmakers, yes, lighting is important to them, but if you're making YouTube videos, lighting is important to you. If you're making Instagram content, lighting is important to you, TikTok. So like the information was the same, just how I was packaging it was limiting how many people could potentially, learn and grow from the information. So I definitely think it's a good idea to try to widen your base, especially if the information is equally as valuable to the new wider base as it was to the original core base.
Cool. So just moving on a little bit, your YouTube videos are constantly teaching people how to make video, sharing tips of what equipment they should be using, software they could be using. Let's focus on YouTube for just a second. As this is your area of expertise, what equipment or software, what do you think are the essentials that a beginner YouTuber should be using today to make video creation as easy as possible for themselves?
I personally believe, and maybe this is a hot topic, or a hot opinion or whatever, but a hot take, that's what they call it. You really should just use whatever's the easiest for you to use. I believe that the main focus as an aspiring creator, especially for YouTube, should be to simplify the process as much as you can. That, as we touched on earlier, there's so many things you have to think about already. Titles, thumbnails, videos, hooks, scripts, your description, all that stuff. So you shouldn't try to overcomplicate the process if you don't have to, especially if you don't have the bandwidth to. And so I tell most people that, if you can only use your phone, and by introducing a camera and a lens, a professional microphone and all of that, that's going to overcomplicate the process to a point to where your consistency is going to suffer. Or from a point where you are only going to be able to put out half as many videos as before. It may not be worth it. It might be worth it to take some time and really learn that new skill, whether that's operating a professional camera or whatnot. And then when you can introduce it into your workflow without it slowing down the workflow, that's actually the better way to do it. Because like when it comes to YouTube, especially YouTube in particular, the quality of gear isn't really as necessary as you might think. Now, the one thing I will recommend that everyone invests in some way is having proper lighting. When it comes to a good quality video, lighting is super key. But the best thing about lighting is that for most people, throughout the majority of the day, you'll have pretty decent sunlight. And so just, using natural sunlight in the best way can actually go a really, really long way, especially if you're just shooting with a phone. The next big thing I would say is audio. Most people will listen to a video that has, poor visual quality, but really good audio quality. But if you have really poor audio quality, people are less likely to be able to stick around and make it through the video.
So audio is more important than visual quality.
Yeah. So the audio, especially if it's really, rich and really creamy, people will listen because most people passively watch YouTube, especially a long form video. They might be washing the dishes while they're actually listening to your video. And so they're not seeing every single frame sometimes. So I do think that it's really important that like you really focus on lighting and audio. And then when it comes to like upgrading cameras and picking lenses and stuff like that, really think about grabbing something that keeps the process moving. You never want to derail yourself by introducing quote unquote better gear, because the truth is that, pretty much all cameras today at this point are really, really good. Yeah. Pretty much whatever you can afford is going to be able to operate. They're all shooting in 4K and have, autofocus for the most part and things like that. So like, all cameras today are really, really good at almost all price points. My piece of advice is just don't buy something because it is quote unquote better if it's going to derail your creative process.
Yeah, I can speak to that. When I started to create live streams for my YouTube channel, I had heard that I needed to use an SLR camera. So if anyone doesn't know what SLR is, the big chunky cameras that professionals use, because that gives the best quality. So when I tried to do that, I realized that I needed some more accessories to make it work, to be able to live stream with an SLR camera. It took way longer to set up every time I wanted to do a live stream. And sometimes the live stream would be a bit patchy and unreliable because it was such like a big file that's getting sent from my camera. And it put me off the idea of doing these live streams because it was just such a cumbersome process every time I wanted to shoot one. And it was only actually until really recently, a few months ago, I actually just invested in a simple USB webcam. I've granted that one of the higher quality webcams I could find, and it saved me so much time every time I wanted to do a live stream that the thought of doing a live stream wasn't off-putting to me anymore. It was just sit down in front of my computer and start filming. And I don't think that slight decrease in visual quality really made that much difference to the viewer experience. So completely can relate to what you're saying there about not overspending and overinvesting in equipment if it's not going to be a simple, streamlined addition to your process. I noticed you made a YouTube video recently. It's called, got it here, I tested 100 AI tools. Here's the best ones for videographers. After having made that video, is there a couple of AI tools you can talk to us now you think YouTubers in particular should be aware of?
I think it's really important to find a few that you want to really like kind of sink your teeth into. For me, most of it starts with ChatGPT. I think that's one of my favorite AI tools at this point. No matter what the day is, no matter what the task is, I find that that's a really, really good one. And YouTubers can absolutely utilize it for coming up with ideas for titles, for descriptions, things like that. One thing I actually do is every YouTube title, I ever come up with at this point, I just run it through ChatGPT and I just say like, hey, here's a title for my YouTube video. I'm looking for a title that, that pushes creativity or that drives people to want to click because there's something interesting or there's an element of mystery or something along those lines. And I say, here's what I came up with. Can you give me some variations of this title that meet these requirements? And just getting a couple ideas from ChatGPT, I think, are phenomenal. Even just, it's almost like having like another person to just kind of like bounce ideas off of. Even if you don't use them, it's just good to kind of go through that creative process. Because sometimes, ChatGPT won't get it perfectly right, but they may give me a better word, like a word that's easier to understand that I didn't think of that I can just swap out. So that's one. I think ChatGPT is fantastic for that. Another one I would say, especially right now, and I mentioned in that video, is Opus. I think for anyone who's doing like podcast style stuff like this, if you want to like cut those podcasts into multiple little mini clips for shorts or Instagram reels or for TikToks, that's a fantastic use case at this point.
You said Opus, that's Opus Clip AI that you're talking about there, is it?
Yeah, Opus Clip AI. Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I think, when it comes to utilizing these AI tools, it really is about like finding tools that like just make your creative process a little bit easier. Just because there are, hundreds and hundreds of AI tools doesn't mean that you need to go and research them. Like, honestly, the only reason why I went and researched them was like, I wanted to know what they all were. And I was like, the only way I can justify spending this much time on all these AI tools is if I make a video about it. I was like, I gotta make a video about it in order to justify spending all this time. But what I find is that most of them are just slight variations of other ones. And that it's just really important just to kind of find a few that really work well for you. Realistically, I think it should come from having a problem and then I feel like we keep coming back to this, but like having a problem and then go searching and see if there's an AI tool that can help you solve that problem.
Yeah, 100%. Just to tail end on Opus Clip, I use it myself. I actually use it for these podcast recordings. So I put the URL to one of these hour-long podcasts in there, and it comes back with maybe 20 short clips suggestions that I can use for each podcast, and maybe around 10 of those are usable. Like it finds the right start point and end point, fully captions it, and about 10 of them it does right. But that's 10 shorts that I now have that I wouldn't have had before if I hadn't gone through this process, or I would have spent hours editing them and finding out the time frames myself. So I agree with you. It's a great piece of software.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. So you've been doing YouTube for 7 years now, sharing tips to video makers on how they can be the best creators they possibly can. What's next for you? What are you most looking forward to and putting most of your focus into?
Yeah, so I mean, recently we just launched my training course platform, which is called the Creative Fam Academy. And it's very unique compared to like what I've done in the past. So I've been, doing training courses for, years at this point, but they've always been sold sort of like a la carte. So like you pay for one course and that's, you just get the one view. However, we decided to actually shift everything into more of a membership style setup, primarily because, as I mentioned earlier, my goal is just to help as many creators as I possibly can. And, there's just certain things within YouTube that we just can't do. YouTube, there's so many other videos that are on the sidebar and, we have to hope that the algorithm gets it to them. And then, you kind of can get punished if your videos are too long or too detailed. And so we wanted to create a platform where, we could go deep on certain topics, like these video-based topics that people really need to know. And we don't have to worry about ads. We don't have to worry about, retention as much. Like it's really just about giving the information that people are actively looking for and really condensing it down. And so with the Creative Fam Academy, it is an online membership. We actually built the entire thing through a platform called Uscreen, which I love because it really helps us to really focus on the content more so than like the platform itself. Like the platform is like perfectly built. We just have to really focus on putting on the high quality information. But our goal is just to take someone who is either an aspiring video shooter, a beginning video shooter, and even like semi-professional, and take them to a place to where they can create for themselves full time with a huge emphasis on being able to do it professionally. All of our courses talk about the money side of things. So we talk about how to turn it into a business. So whether you wanted to go and do real estate, you want to shoot real estate videos for clients, we actually teach you how to find the clients, how to invoice them, how to get paid, and how to really do this. You know, I heard this saying my entire career, and that is that like, oh, you're going to be a starving artist. And I was like, that is so false. Like, you don't have to be a starving artist. And so I worked really hard to figure out the do's and don'ts. And now I just want to take that and make it accessible to other people. I want them to be able to go onto the Creative Fam Academy and learn that, one, they don't have to be a starving artist, but two, they can go in depth in tons of different topics to be able to overcome that stigma. And we tried to make it as easy as possible. Not only do we have the online website, which is creativefamacademy.com, but we also have an app. So if you go into the App Store on Android and on Google, and you type in Creative Fam Academy, our app pops up, which means you can actually stream the content anywhere you want. You can cast it directly to your television if you want to. And we've just made it as simple as we can for people to be able to start consuming the content, because at the end of the day, we want people to actually like take this knowledge and be able to apply it in a real way, even so far as that we also have sort of like a Discord style community that's built directly into the app as well. So if you have questions in the moment, like you can ask me and you can ask my team who helped me moderate the connection as well. And we can have full on community with you there. And sometimes it's just like, what are you guys working on this weekend? Like, you know, like what projects are going on? We just have some conversations in that way, but we're also there to answer any questions that you may have about courses, or as well as just like for your journey in particular. And so that's pretty much like what I've been focusing on the most with the Creative Fam Academy, and just trying to keep padding it out with new courses and new content that can continue to make the platform even better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing one of the courses included in the membership now, the Business Guide for Creative Professionals. Definitely a topic close to my heart. It's like you said, there's so many ways to monetize your online content so that you don't have to be a starving artist. And I've actually made a lot of videos on this topic in the past because, I think so many creators are missing out on that opportunity and not able to become full-time creators as soon as they could if they knew the right stuff. So I really like that you've included that topic in here. And it sounds, your approach to this, I've spoke to a few other creators on this podcast who are following a similar model. They realize the shortcomings of YouTube. You potentially can't go into as much detail on YouTube because YouTube is all about quick snappiness and maximizing your watch time. And also you can't be as hands-on as having those community chats and building a community as you can off platform. So a lot of other creators, well, not a lot, but a few are starting to do something similar and build like membership platforms off the platform, off YouTube. And I think that's such a clever business move and a clever next step for creators. So really cool to see that you're both doing that and you're also teaching people about those concepts as well. Really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's at the end of the day, like my goal is just to help as many aspiring creators to be able to do this. Like I look at what I do as a blessing, you know, like it's a blessing that I get a chance to create full time and I get a chance to do what I love on a daily basis. And it's not a blessing that I just want to like hold on to my own, because I've been doing this for so long that I realized that like anybody can do this. Like I did not go to I didn't go to business school. I didn't go to film school. Like I'm very self-taught. But I will say there were tons of, trials and errors. And so my goal is just to help allow other people to learn from my trials and errors. So that way their process is even faster and a whole lot easier than mine was. And if you aspire to do this, if you aspire to be a full-time creator, whether that's on YouTube or just shoot video, or you're not even sure really where to go, just know that like there is an actual like path that is set out before us and that you can achieve these goals. Like it's absolutely doable. It's absolutely possible. I didn't know that when I first got started, and I found out accidentally, So I think it's super important that people know that. so that way they can actually choose to start a path that they're actually going to be passionate about. And, they'll be happy and love what they do.
100%.
I mean, what we do is a dream. So I want other people to be able to do this too.
For sure. Yeah, this information isn't out there as much as it should be. So it's great that you're building a space to share that. Cool. I'm going to put a link then to the the Creative Fam Academy in the description to this podcast episode, along with Brandon's YouTube channel. You've seen already like tons of super useful videos for video makers. So I know a lot of people watching this will get a lot of value there. So go check his channel out as well. Thank you, Brandon. That's been super valuable, super interesting, and I just really appreciate you spending your time with us today. Any final thoughts or final comments before we leave, or we covered everything, you think?
I think we covered everything, but I'll just say one thing to the viewers. If you have been like on the edge about doing that next big creative endeavor and you're like, I'm not sure, like, should I do it or can I do it? I just want to give you a word of encouragement and to say, like, you got this. Like, you can go and do it. And so take the leap, take the jump, like, it's worth it. I promise.
Yeah. I always say if an idiot like me can do it, anyone can do it. So believe Brandon when he says you've got it. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next episode of Channel Chats. Check out Brandon's links in the description. Peace out.
Peace.